Good morning, guys. How's everyone doing? It's just gonna be me and you guys today. So, how you feeling? A little bit better. They got back my blood results last night, um, and they think it might be like a toxin. So they're running another test, and they're gonna let me know. Morning. What's up, guys? Everyone's still kind of filtering in. I don't think Dork or J Fresh are gonna make it today. So it's just gonna be me. Sorry to disappoint. Who am I kidding? I still have blood. That's progress. Yeah, yeah. You have to be 3 times more bearish now. I'm glad you're alive and doing better. Well, thanks. I don't know if I'm gonna be 3 times more bearish, but I'll be sufficiently bearish. You need the rest, maybe. I hope this week's less stressful now that re-onboarding is underway and all. Yeah, yeah, that's a getting that all sorted out was a big nightmare because we went super hard into the like beta launch, right? Like trying to get it out the door as quick as we could. And kind of plugging all the holes and getting it shipped and so it was just like right after we'd gone, hard as fuck for 2 weeks, and we had to do it all over again. But it worked out. So fortunately, it's all solved, and everybody will be able to get signed back up. That'll work out great. When's oil back up? Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know. Have the peace talks in the Middle East broken down yet? I don't really pay a lot of attention to like world political news. Ugh. Israel ceasefire talks. Major roadblocks raise doubts over whether the war can be ended before Biden leaves office. There you go. That seems to be the consensus across the Times, CNN, Fox. Yeah. U.S. military started drafting plans on Saturday for a collapse of the Gaza ceasefire talks. Mm. Yeah, so I guess we're gonna probably have to wait for the official meeting to take place. But I mean, they're like paving roads into like Palestinian territory where they've previously bombed. I don't think they're leaving anytime soon. Why would they want the end war to end? They don't. Well, Israel doesn't. The U.S. is under, some political pressure to end it. Not a lot of it, right? But some. Israel wants to keep prompting conflict and escalate across their borders because and the U.S. probably wants that too, right? I mean, if you think about it strategically, um, so right now, Israel's pretty free to push up like into Lebanon and into Syria, which gives the U.S. a Syrian border, right? Um, and a stake in the outcome of the failed state there, right? So, I mean, aside from pissing off Turkey a lot, I can't see like a good reason for Israel not to continue to press the offensive. Because Damascus is right there. I mean, one solid push and they could take both major cities. Something to think about. You still have Forex. Those are two countries that are desperately in need of some democracy and some freedom, right? I used to have a Forex broker in Cyprus. They kicked me out when some of the U.S. regulations changed. Lame. Yeah, that sucks. They were eventually going to fight her Iran, but they didn't know how to sell it to people. Well, there's still, I think there's still a long way from getting anywhere near Iran, but we kind of gave up on Iraq. That would have been the better bridge, but I was planning to ask about Hal too. I mean, Hal's pretty cheap right now. Obviously, oil's been going off a cliff since the last ceasefire announcement. A little bit lower than I expected it to fall into the end of this year, but it can bounce back really rapidly. I think the only way it actually like continues to decline outside of the short pressure on it is if there were a real ceasefire, and it's pretty unlikely we see one. Or at least I think it's pretty unlikely we see one. What did Hal end the week at? I don't know. Not fucking Hindustan Aeronautics. Motherfucker, that's so annoying. So Hal pulling back to about 28. I'd look for support around like the 27 level. I don't really know if 28's all that supportive. 27 might be okay. Who's on the other side of Turkey in that region via supporting the Kurds? Yeah, they're like a tentative NATO ally, but I mean, they are part of NATO. Stream 165. How time flies. You sir are a gentleman and a scholar for entertaining, helping, and putting up with us. Now, when crash. You mentioned the support resistance become weaker the more they're tested, but do they eventually disappear after a lot of testing? Or do they always remain once created? Hmm. Well, when you're analyzing historic support and resistance, then yes. Frequently, support and resistances are formed around major positions, right? And so you have levels that are kind of defined over longer time frames, whether they're gained or lost, because people position there psychologically or people position there systematically, right? Like 5446 on ES, you know or on SPX, or like 5400. Like, their CTA triggers are the same going up as they were going down, um at like the 46 mark, and 5400 obviously because it's a psychological level. So yeah, they do stay, and then positioning begets more positioning, and the more people positioned in a certain price range, the more likely to latch onto it, and then that's what creates them. Is there any chance that we have chop or some ups over the next couple of days since very little data? I'm hoping VIX can come down a little. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Obviously, things are a bit shaken since last Friday, but we haven't fallen below like that next CTA trigger in like 53.75, 53.80 range. So I would say that it's pretty likely that we could continue to find support here. Most of the support that was at 5,500 rolled down with the less advantageous data on Friday. They gave up a lot of that positioning. I will say that we're now further from those in the money sold puts that had the potential to squeeze upward. Um, and yeah, we could see a continuation, but they're building a lot of support here, and the lack of data over the next 2 days is generally beneficial to continuing to build that support or trying to create a reversal. MA6 and CIA might be supportive. You should double down. I don't know what your position in hell is. I'm here. Sorry I'm late. It's okay. I forgive you. How many Hail of Our Lady VWAPs do I owe? Just two. That's How's Stealth Gas looking to you right now? I've been watching it trade within a range at the highs. I'm thinking it might be bottom out and headed for the upper end again. $8 target? Yeah, I guess. Risky, but sure. I would just worry about it forming a lower high here, and then you only have like $1 in range. I guess if you're playing the stock and not options. Catching up at 2x, I don't know why that's necessary. We've only been going for 15 minutes. Husband took the children away for part of the day. I'm free. Congratulations. How the fuck can they keep catching the knife? Yield curve uninverts and JPOW's about to cut. We don't know what JPOW's gonna do. We'll find out next week. He very well may not, right? Especially if inflation is up this week. New work schedule got me working 14 days on, 12-hour shifts, 14 days off. I'll be able to try full-time trading with no distractions. Oh, cool. Except no sleep. Okay, now you just bought yourself another 3 and A2. Can BTU hit 25 by October? I would say commodities might be able to go a little bit lower. If BTU gets back around like 18, I'm buying it again, or buying more of it. I think hitting 25 by October is probably unlikely. Straddle strangle for CPI. Also, isn't the odds pretty good inflation will be down? Yeah. Yeah. Actually, so there's gonna be some carryover from the wealth bubble, but still no seasonal revision, right? And so we've still got that kind of disjointed measure compared to the first 2 quarters of the year. Um, I would say that while inflation is rising and the things that have been underweighted, the more heavily weighted components are still in decline, which is probably something they should have thought of before they made the seasonal adjustments that they did. As far as index best to strangle CPI, I wonder which would see the most benefit. Or the biggest loss. Probably QQQ. Like NASDAQ 100. I don't think IWM. I would say yes, but I don't think IWM cares that much about the inflation. They care about um, a soft landing, right? And so, like, IWM might have more upside room than QQQ, but QQQ has a lot more downside room and probably equivalent upside room. Thoughts on Tesla testing the 200 resistance this month? Yeah, we could go over that. Um, So going into OPEX, yeah, we're still kind of in negative territory on Tesla. I would say as long as it can stay under 210. Well, see, it bounced overnight. It did dip a little bit below. Mm, Hmm. I would say there's a decent chance that it finds some support here. It could continue down if indexes slip, but of its own volition, um, I would say it might see some support before testing 200. This vol's still going up on it, so it's coming down. Yeah, not impossible. I don't know if I'd want to play it. It's not a very good play, but it's there. That's my thought, was that IWM can get really dumb, but Qs look spicy with range both ways. I think IWM will get dumb with the Fed decision. I don't think inflation's going to significantly impact IWM, right? If rates are going to stay higher for longer, IWM's fucked. And softer inflation's really not going to signify much for that, right? And if inflation's too soft, it'll be bearish for IWM, but not super bearish, right? It'll probably just like fall to like maybe 200. QQQ has got like $30-$40 a range on either side, especially if you're going to get some theta on it. Boeing Starliner landed without any problems. You mean besides getting lost in space? Didn't SpaceX like have to go and rescue them? How's that bullish for them? Also, I mean, it has nothing to do with their profitability as a company. Not having any astronauts on board. Well, since we started with Tesla, let's go through the rest of the Mag 7 and see what we've got going on. NVIDIA is starting to find support around 100. Obviously taking a big hit over the last week. Delta's continued to fall off of it really since like end of August. Gamma's just about to turn negative. It actually bounced off of gamma neutral on Friday, but it wasn't a very strong bounce. If that continues to grind down and slips gamma neutral, I would say that we see a test at like 100 or 95 on it over the next week. There's quite a lot of resistance to the upside move as well. There's bot puts in the money at 103, 104, 105. Pretty decent pile of them at like 108. And then it's got to get above 108 to start moving up. In the meantime, yeah, I would say it's fairly pinned to 100. Volatility's been coming back a little bit over the last couple of days, but it's volatility to the downside. The MM's still charging a massive fucking premium on options though, with a 3 to 7% move over the next 5 days. I don't think the Starliner has anything to do with the bearish grip on Nvidia's stock price. I don't think anyone gives a flying fuck about Starliner. It's the fact that all of their fucking jets are still being grounded and revamped, and the massive amount of lawsuits that that's generated. You can't say Lost in Space normally. You gotta say it like the intro to the OG show. They should go into non-manned vehicles. Yeah, across the board, right? I will say that Nvidia is running out of downside though after this drop, and the bounce on it, if especially if indexes bounce, could be insane. Netflix, Netflix has actually been pretty fucking durable over both of these corrections. Especially this one. Netflix actually has a little bit of range to continue dropping. To about 640 where there's support. Risk would be at 65 on the upside. Well, 70 on the upside, I guess. Volatility has been picking up a little bit. Let's see how people are positioned. Quite a lot of Vega risk on the downside move here. Fell through gamma neutral on Friday. Vega neutral test is at 645. Yeah, I would say Netflix probably has like another $20 I can lose, and risk is almost right at spot. That might be a good one. Quit saying fucking bounce. What do you want? The bulls keep stabilizing it. We're still above delta neutral. I'll quit saying bounce and we're below delta neutral. But for now, I mean, you have to be aware that that's a possibility. Microsoft has a ton of support at 400 also. Yeah, 399.59 is delta neutral on Microsoft. If that fails, 387 to 380 to the downside. Jesus Christ, that looks terrible. Microsoft might just be fucked. Well, that's fun. Yeah, Microsoft doesn't look too hot. Realize vol's falling, or volatility starting to pick up on it. I would say it's probably got like another 10 $13 of downside room. It's a pretty steep drop, and there's plenty of puts too, so that doesn't look too hot. Meta's been outperforming everything to the downside, and has quite a lot of room to fall should it. There's a big support at like 487.50. Quite a lot of puts all the way down to 480 right now. It's locked up at support at 500. So yeah, if Meta loses 500, like $20 a downside range on it, maybe more. down to about, I guess that would be like, oh, yeah, there. Probably the 480.76 level. Google, Google looks like shit. Damn, everything got murdered on Friday. Gamma on Google is just flat to the downside of 50. There's almost no options interest on the chain between like 150 and 135, which is really weird. Or just gamma's just neutral through that whole range. Nope, there's just no fucking OI. There's some OI at 145 and 140. And there's just nothing else at any of the other strikes. So, yeah, I would say Google could get really slippery to the downside now that it's testing 150. If it loses 150, it could drop. Yeah, almost back to like where the like where it corrected to in March. That one's rough. So minor supports at 145 and 140, and then bigger support down at 135. Let's look at Amazon. So Amazon's still at support here. And most of that support is for September OPEX. Yeah. There's still call side interest to the upside of 175. 170 is sort of a breakdown. But there's a shitload of call interest at 170 for the 1220 OPEX, which may be a little bit supportive here. I would say if it bounces back above 75, it could run back up towards 200. There's a lot of out of the money call interest, but a loss of 70 could see it fall as low as like 150. Not in the short term. I would say in the short term, probably no lower than like 160, 165, 160. Starts to stabilize. The downside starts to stabilize a little bit on the nearer dated contracts around 160. So that might be supportive. 70, so 70 and 60 are supportive. Break above 75 and it could rip. That might be the only one still holding on to a lot of out of the money call interest. AMD looks pretty terrible. Also, I don't think any of these are going to look very good. Yeah, AMD's starting to build up a lot of put interest out at like 130, 125, 120, even 110. Vega exposure is going to pick up on that same downside move. Looks like it could drop as low as like 110. Support at 100. To the upside, it needs to clear 140 to pick up any like even remotely positive gamma. It's well below delta neutral and gamma neutral at this point. Yeah, I would say AMD probably just continues to sell off. That one looks really bad. Apple is one I'm actually kind of interested in because it's held the most value. I think besides Meta. And Apple's chain is starting to decay. It tends to be a slower mover than the rest of the Mag 7. 220 is the last major support, though. So a loss of 220 opens up downside range to 200, or even like 180 before support is found, or any like major support is found. It still has a ton of out of the money call interest to the upside, but I would say a lot of that is sold. Volatility starting to pick up on the downside move. There's probably a good confirmation here on like a loss of 117.50 where it bounced what was that, Wednesday? So if it breaks that low again, which it looks like it's going to, right? Because it failed the 225 test. So continuation there, down to 210 or even back down to 200 in pretty short order, I think. That one looks pretty bad. I might pick up like a 45-day puts or something on it. I think I still have some 225 sold calls out and 230 sold calls from the Pickles picks like a couple weeks ago. Um, but a loss at 220 is where I'd pick up puts on that. Nikkei also dumped last week. Well, yeah, yen's been going up. Yen's been just fucking there. Just rocketing. Are Pickles picks gonna be extra fire? Well, tech looks like dog shit. So, I mean, I guess they could be. Ooh, I'm gonna play with this thing we're building real fast and see if it pulls up anything neat. We've still got some work to do on it, but oh no, it just doesn't load. Never mind, it's still not working. But yeah, I mean, this is gonna be like pretty directly inverse the Nikkei. Nikkei long short might not be a bad play as yen continues to rise, especially if we expect Powell to cut rates and Udo to raise them. I mean, I'm still short Nikkei. Well, short Nikkei again, and then long yen. Like I take a longer dated long yen position, but what's the thing, Glorp? Well, I tried to get it to fucking work, but it didn't work. Like it's not loading. There's some extra buttons though. I guess we could take a look at those extra buttons. This is a hardcore tease. If you notice, there's some extra stuff going on here. Whoosh. This is probably what you guys are more used to seeing. You know, these buttons. And this has other buttons. You should be hot and bothered. I gotta change my pants. Yeah, live data. What? Oh, is that what it said? I'm not used to seeing any buttons. You can show me anything soon enough. Barely restrained, self satisfied grin. I love it. Well, we wouldn't you want you guys in the beta to think that we were resting on our laurels. This is better than OnlyFans. You can edge harder to it, which is nice. Anyway, I guess we could take a little bit of a look at macros. Like, the stream's not going to go very long today because I'm not going to bullshit around with Dork and JFresh for 3 hours, which is unfortunate. But JFresh is flying, and I think Dork's busy with family. Billionaires like me and Jen, love you long time. Win access when we launch the product. We were talking about like doing like an early access thing for billionaires so they could get in like a couple weeks before it went public. But doing it for the pigeon whales was a fucking nightmare. So I think we're just gonna launch it. That's mean. It's not. It's we've been dicking around with launch for like a month now. Like just trying to get it out and get everyone like onboarded and paid and everything. It's been actual hell. And so rather than replicate that again over an even larger quantity of people, we'll just release the fucking thing and then everyone has it. I got the refund and I was shaking in my boots at the thought of losing access to Gamma Strike. But all is saved. I got the email and signed back up. Awesome. Cool. I'm glad those are going out and getting in everybody's hands. We're trying to stagger them a bit so we don't get blown up by our payment provider again. Um, but cool. That's awesome. Yeah, you're not. We're gonna give everybody like time to get the original refund and sign back up, so that there'll be a bit of a grace period. Can you get the special fan price? We don't do sales. Hmm. We'll see. Billionaire special pricing. We'll think about it. We'll have to talk about it when we get closer to launch. Right now we're worried about other shit and getting payment portals set up. We don't even have like fixed pricing for release yet, so we kind of have an idea of where it's going to be. Will there be general education material in the launch? Yeah, yeah. And then in addition to it, we're going to be doing like like we're going to start doing like a weekly podcast covering like what we see in the data. We're going to be adding like information tabs to everything, so you'll have like you can like mouse over and it'll give you the info about what each thing means, and then we'll probably do some streams walking through the platform and stuff like that prior to launch, for everybody. And then I'll also be using it on stream, so I mean, that'll be a great way to familiarize yourself with it. I'm happy to fill in for JFresh and Jork. If you need a physicist to bullshit with, you know what, you two? I'm gonna take the extra hour today and just do something else. Is there gonna be a Clippy? No. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I was worried about the education part. I'd imagined you impatiently saying we've been using this since August. How are you not making money? I think about that every day. Slowly but surely, though, more and more people are making money. How much money would it take for Kenny to buy you out and shut down the platform? $2 billion. Anyway, Kenny, don't you dare. I mean, everyone's got a price. Any plans to put it on Spotify? Yeah, we could. Um, it's probably just gonna be like a options focused thing where we go over like like our internal scanners and stuff, where we're seeing options movement in the options market, what stocks are kind of popping up, options macro, stuff like that. Probably fairly short form, like 30-45 minutes long. And we're just gonna kind of sit down once a week and go through all of that. Maybe discuss some plays we're thinking about taking, shit like that. Driver, welcome to Zillionaire. Thank you so much, man. Nope, that's not working. Why is that doing that? It says I don't have headphones. That's bullshit. I definitely have headphones. All right. Well, the song doesn't work. I don't know what to do about that. If you got two Billy, I wouldn't even be mad. Take the money and run, right? Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the only point at which we'd get two Billy is if we were worth two Billy. At which point I would tell him to go fuck himself. Is Jordan gonna have more plays than buying one out of the money spy put? Well, I hope so, but we'll see. All right. I think we covered most of this on Friday's end of day. All right. So if you go out to the monthly on technicals, the first week of the month pushes us down below 54.46, which is the reversal signal. That came on Friday during trading, and the next level we're going to be looking at is like 53 5300, 5325, really, and then 5264, which is a fairly important level. It's also the larger of the CTA triggers to the downside. That'd be just under a test of the EMA, or just on a cross of the, yeah, the next downside move would be across the EMA 20. And then we'd be looking right around here at the long-term trend 52.64 for the longer support. On the daily, we lost the EMA, the EMA 30 and the MA 50 Friday. So same thing there. Looking at long term support, I would say support between here and there is going to be like 53.75, and then like minor supports 53.25, 5300. So like this range right here and this. As minor supports on the way to that major test there. If we fail that, that would open up our test at the MA 200, and then possibly 4903, 5000, somewhere in that range. So obviously the bear signals are mounting. This is getting much worse. If we were to look for a similar correction to August from here, it would be probably a test of that like 5111 level, which I think was the monthly support. Oh, that was a little while back. Yeah, that was like the monthly support back here, back in March, or like the Feb high. I'm gonna grab November 5250s, sit on them, and pray for a market crash so I can make millions of dollars. Okay, yeah, that's one way of doing it, I suppose. Buy now button fixed on what? On the platform? Is there a buy now button? There's a sign up now button. I don't think that works at all. Wait, you're already signed up. You should get a new email to pay again after you got your refund. And then you can just you're gonna keep your account. You're just gonna reset your password. And your subscription will start from the day you paid. So now. So you'll have gotten like the last month for free or whatever. So what do we have this week? The big things this week are going to be probably, well, tonight actually we have Japanese GDP and Chinese inflation. I think both of those are going to be pretty significant as far as dollar valuation goes. Tomorrow we got wholesale inventories in the morning, and then consumer inflation expectations. We got a 3 and 6 month bill auction that could drive some intraday volatility. Then we have Chinese balance of trade tomorrow night. Fuck all Tuesday. There's a 3-year auction intraday. Red Book. Then core inflation on Wednesday, which is currently expected at 0.2, between 0.2 and 0.3, for core, and headline is expected to come in at 0.2, which would reduce the year over year rate to 2.6. I think there's a chance it could be hotter, and if it is, that'll probably be supportive for the dollar, and we could see a big rebound in the dollar, because I think dollar is a little oversold here if we're not gonna just straight up crash, or Japan's not gonna raise rates. And then Thursday, I think we get the ECB rate decision where they're expected to cut again, which could help boost the dollar a little. And then we have PPI, which is also marked to rise, both core and that one I think is likely. It's likely we see a rise in PPI because shipping costs are still fairly high. Not container costs, but shipping costs. Then we have a 30-year auction, 1 o'clock on Thursday. Um, oh, and then import export prices on Friday will be important. Um, Import prices are expected to rise a little as we get some of that inflation imported back to us, and then we get the Michigan consumer preliminary for September. So I think that BOJ's next hike is um was it the day after ours? So we have FOMC is Wednesday the 18th. And Fed Fund futures are currently pricing in 50 points of cuts. When the fuck does Japan make their next decision? Mm, maybe later in September. Oh, it's September 20th. So Friday morning of the next week, right before the OPEC's expiration. Imagine US cut and GP hike same week. Yeah. Dixie was flat bouncing last week. Yeah, it started to recover on Friday a little bit. Found a little higher low and pushed back up. I can look at it over here. So a little bit higher low out on the daily. 101. 101.18. Resistance to the upside at 101.9. Um, but this is pretty close to where we landed on like December's low. This would be a fairly good point for a bounce. It was a strong recovery on Friday too. 0.25 cut could actually give us a little sigh of relief rally since it would defy Fed fund futures. Yes, actually. Fund futures are definitely pricing in a path of cuts that is closer to what the Fed would do in response to a recession versus a soft landing. And so a slower pace of cuts would lean what would mean at least monetary policy was following the soft landing. But that could also mean that the economic data starts to come in a lot worse. I think they can cut 2.5 without really affecting anything, right? I mean, I don't think the Fed fund rate is restrictive really at all. So it's not like a 0.25 cut's going to make a big difference. Yield curve uninverting after periods of inversions are always followed by extreme oil pumps. I mean, very extreme. Yes, I'm well aware. You tend to get a lot of commodities over performance when either moving into a recession or post soft landing. Commodities are really good into the back half of this year. That's why I've been a long like energy for a while now because it's been relatively underpriced to where it could be. And if we actually get a recession, we could get a commodity like super cycle, especially while the dollar's still high enough because people will want to buy into those futures. Anyway, I guess we could cover expectations for this week. I would say that we have probably a little bit more room to move down. I think I won last week. Hold on, let me check. Because I'm actually not sure. Uh, that was me. JFresh wasn't here, but I gave him Bull Gurk. What was Dork? Okay. Well, I guess I won. Not really. So just me today, but I would say uh we're gonna move down to 5365 ish, and then probably find support out into CPI. Let me think. Was that a day off? Hold on. Oh, because last week was shorter. Maybe we test DM. You know what? Hold on. Seasonal revisions aren't going to change. All right. I don't know if they have anything, but that's what I'll go with for this week. Would you say it means it's finally time for wheat as well? Seasonally, this isn't a great time for wheat. Usually wheat gets pretty good around the time that reserves start to get a little bit lower, which is like midwinter. At least winter wheat. So 0.25 could give us a rally rather than a correction. it could give us some relief. I don't know. I don't know if that relief rally would persist, but I could see us being a bit overdue for a relief rally where we're at anyway. Um, but I think bulls have built up a little bit of support here. Anyway, I think that about covers things. Obviously, ES next test we'd be looking for is 53.34.25 to the downside. Friday's after hours sell off looks like a continuation there is perfectly reasonable. 5,400 is not a strong historic support, and there's just not a lot of buyers. I mean, as long as dollar stays fairly stagnant and yen continues to rise against it, that's going to put continued downward pressure on tech. DN test after CPI PPI would be dope. We're getting close enough to delta neutral that a test of it is kind of starting to seem inevitable. And the Monte Carlo says we're going there this week, so I guess we'll find out. That's literally where the like highest probability target is over the next 5 days is a test of 5,300. I remember we went up like crazy almost the entire year during 2007, and again before the 2022 crash. We didn't really crash in 2022. High inflation's still bullish for indexes, big tech. Yeah. Memes? Yeah, we could take a look at them. I don't know. I don't know what went on Friday with GME, but somebody tried to break the back of the short vol that came in off of the ETF FTDs. They weren't successful, but they did take a bunch of profits off of the table with the move. Definitely put a little bit of pressure on the shortfall that had just come in over the last like 3 or 4 days, right? Like the ETF FTDs ran off. We got that move from like 20 to 25, right? This is grinding down. Whether it was DFE or not DFE, someone on Friday bought like 10K contracts and pressured that short vol. That's that massive short vol position that's at the 25C. And we tested it. We could probably continue to test it again. Obviously, that blew up some of the nearer the money short call positioning that was over there. Let's see what happened with Gamma Max on that. Looks like GME Gamma Max moved up a bit. Dealer Delta picked up by about 40 million, which isn't very much, but Gamma's still a little bit positive. So Gamma Max moved up to 25.29. There's a bit of out of the money call buying between 26, 27, and 28. With pressure on Vega picking up on a break of 25. That also means, yeah, I mean, I would say if it continues to break up, it could test as high as 30. Volatility is still increasing and realized vol is still quite low, so there's an opportunity for it to move up higher. And if it gets to like, here's where it gets interesting. If GME gets to like 32 or 34, right? Like the path up there is not easy, but if it were to get up to 32 or 34, Gamma kind of flattens out like all the way out to like 50. So there's very little decline in Gamma as price goes up from 30 to 50. It kind of stays relatively stable, um, which means that it could theoretically run that high. Because Gamma Max on GME right now is basically it's basically any price between like 35 and 125 because of the way the positioning is on the chain. But that's all like short calls, right? And so I mean, obviously, short vol would have to get blown up for that to happen, which would mean somebody like DFE would have to come in and buy, millions of dollars in options again. Anything similar on AMC? I don't even track their options chain. It was garbage for so long. We just got rid of it, I think. Well, it was time for shorting to come in, but then DFE came back in, right? So DFE's, I mean, it's pretty obvious what DFE's trying to do because he did the same thing last time, right? Is he's trying to squeeze, he has enough money that he's trying to squeeze the short vol on the end of the cycle, right? So if you look at the end of ETF FTDs here, which ran out through like May 8th, this is like where DFV got in the first time, right? And he was able to successfully squeeze the short vol position out. And Jamie ran really hard, right? And then he did it again here after short vol piled back in, right? He was able to do it again out here, and this was, almost exactly a month later during the ETF FTD period on June 3rd. Remember the ETF FTDs run from like the 30th out to like the 7th. And so short vol is at its strongest on the 7th onward, right? That's when short vol piles in, is after the ETF FTDs are cleared, because then they can start shorting with the ETFs. This was less successful, but it got two spikes, right? And then like July ETF FTDs, not much happened, right? It went from like 22 to 26. And then August, August ETF FTDs, it got shorted down and then just bounced back. And then the most recent ETF FTDs from August 28th, we peaked out at around $25, and now it would appear that he's trying to squeeze them, which would be explain his buy-in on Friday. Because I believe Thursday was the last day of ETF FTDs in this cycle, but let me double check. It might have been Friday. Give me 1 second. It's not a bad move, but he has to do it, and it requires a lot of fucking money. Um yeah, so it looks like the last big day of ETF FTDs was 9/5, and he bought in on the 6th. Help from Super Stonk. Well, yeah, if he posts about it. But on Friday, the position that was bought was 0 DTE, and then it was closed immediately. So it seems like all he did was squeeze off like the 23C, like the shorter dated short calls. But we never broke 25. So the 25C, which is the biggest pile of short calls, was untouched. If those don't get squeezed off, then the rest of it doesn't work. So he's doing this monthly? No, I don't think he's doing it monthly. I don't think he did it in like August at all. And it's going to be different, right? It was really successful prior to dilution. But that doesn't mean it's going to be as successful post dilution. What the fuck is going on with that? Is that not working? Isn't ARB loading? Hmm. What if good news at earnings could be overpriced to buy in? That may be why he bought zero GTEs. Also, liquidity isn't that bad. They could still short GME pretty hard here. So maybe smart doing what he did and just getting the zero DTE and jumping back out. Do you track Knock or Eric? No. It'd be fun if he does it again. I'm not gonna lie, I'll keep a little cheap exposure. That's fair. Not the same, right? So he might just be kind of like testing the waters and seeing what he can get away with. But they're gonna have a lot more liquidity than they had before. I mean, Jamie still issued like a fuck ton of shares. The fact that he's risking millions is insane on this play. Well, we talked about it for like 2 years, right? If somebody would ever come in and just break it, right? If they would just come in and break short vol, then Jimmy could rip, right? And then no one did that, and then DFE did it in April successfully. Plus, he has to be aware of RC diluting again. Yeah, yeah, obviously. um, that's a very real risk. Also, the MMs are going to be more prepared. Like, that's probably not something they would let him do twice to the same degree of success. Very minimal exposure. I got it at like 2440. Yeah. Upstart's continuing to fall. Doesn't look too good, but I'd be careful if tech rebounds or if or Wednesday with rate decision. If inflation picks up and it doesn't look like financial conditions are going to tighten markedly, Upstart might stabilize a little bit in its drop. The downside on it's still pretty significant. Like it can still fall to about 32 before it finds any support. Maybe even back to 30. In the short term, I think financial conditions are going to get worse and Upstart's going to suffer, but in the meantime, Fubo's been kind of holding up above $1.50, which is nice. It did get shorted pretty hard at this level already. Liquidity's been drying up. Um, Seems like bulls are starting to take advantage of selling the $2 puts rather than the $1.50 ones. That could stabilize price in this range or higher around like 175. Tell me not to buy TLT puts. It's probably a little too soon, right? However, they might be really good if JPOW doesn't cut 50 points. Or if he doesn't cut it all, then they'd be fantastic. Beyond, nothing really interesting going on there. It looks like it's getting shorted again. GoEV is starting to push up against the $1.50 sold puts. I think those are providing quite a lot of support in this range. Might get a bounce, but maybe not anytime soon. Yeah, that might bounce. It kind of looks like it's starting to set up some lower highs. Might start to get some covering as we move towards OPEX on this. Remember, this is now in the Russell 2000. From a dialogue perspective, it would be insane to cut 0.5 after talking about how healthy the market is. I agree. I think they've kind of talked themselves into a corner, and they're gonna have to cut one way or another. But I would be surprised if they cut 0.5. If they cut 0.5, they're really worried about a recession. And I don't think cutting 0.5 is going to stop one. Probably would be more likely to create stagflation, like really bad at stagflation, versus saving us from a recession. But yeah, I think they're kind of painted into a corner one way or another. So something interesting would be like 0.15 cut, or if they just did 0.25, I don't think that would make too much of a difference. And it's not great for the bull case, but it's stable. Should we be targeting auto floor dealers, the PAG, given that we're entering a consumer recession? I'm already short Carvana. Tesla, I guess, would be the next big one that I would want to short, or Amazon. Probably not Amazon as much. Agree with STD. I think even if they do want to stave off recession, they'll do 0.25 and wait until the following meeting to become more aggressive. Yeah, but if employment data doesn't improve between now and then, the market's going to get really scared. So, yeah, they're balancing on a tightrope here. I mean, they don't want to break anything. But Japan's already confirmed that they intend to hike again, and I think like futures are pricing in like a 90% chance, or 80 something percent chance that they do. Yeah, the market should be scared. Well, yeah, I mean, equities are overvalued anyway. We need a correction in them. And the bond market agrees with that. And money can only continue. And if JPOW cuts, even more money is going to flow into the bond market, especially on the short end, right? And as rates on the short end go down and those prices go up, anybody short the short end is going to feel quite a lot of pressure. And that long end carry is going to become an extreme burden. Can I ask about oil? I already kind of answered that earlier. I mean, it tends to. We talked a little bit about how it tends to perform in the event of a yield curve on inversion, but I think more the rapid decline in dollar value is generally what spurs energy speculation and commodity speculation. But there's a very good chance, even if we don't slip into a recession, that we get a strong commodity cycle. That money from tech needs to go somewhere, and commodities are the next best bet, especially if dollar's falling, right? Like if the trend in dollar is cemented and we're going to see dollar continue to decline, then people are going to want to go long commodities. I think that's on alcoholic beverage stocks like Diego or Pernod Ricard are pretty cheap right now. I was kind of interested in Budweiser. Um, or Anheuser-Busch. This kind of looked a little tempting in the event of a recession. This was pretty cheap. I'm long Monster right now. I would consider maybe some like maybe some shit in here. Like Pepsi looks kind of interesting. Um, Mondelez, that's already started to recover. Um, K-View's been doing okay. That's starting to come back up to $22. I don't know if any of you guys are still in that, but I was picking up some on the dip. Coke is an interesting one. Um, Philip Morris has been doing really well. Tobacco tends to do pretty well in the event of a recession. Maybe McCormick, Kellogg, Kraft Heinz. Kraft Heinz is at like an okay price. Um, General Mills has been fucking killing it since July. Campbell's is moving back up. So yeah, I would say consumer non-durables are a good sector to look at. Energy, um, telecoms been doing okay. Maybe health services. Health services are usually a pretty big flight to safety. I actually really like Humana. I think I might get leaps at 4 on Humana again. But maybe I'll go like June 2025. UNH kind of already recovered. Oh, you know what else might be kind of good is I know CVS was had the shit beat out of it. Yeah, CVS might be one that recovers okay as well. Although I don't think a lot of people have faith that their healthcare like health services segment is really on strong footing. Completely agree on your oil points. Yeah, Pepsi's kind of low right now. Um, Still hasn't quite caught back up to like its 2023 highs. It's starting to recover and it looks pretty decent. I would say I would say I could see it pushing back up towards 200. There might even be like a good dip buy opportunity somewhere in there too. If it dropped to like 71 or 66, 171 or 166. I was looking at oil prices sold per country to try to get an idea of like an average consensus. I don't know though. I don't think I want to be long directly oil. I mean, I'm long ZOM. I have Oxy. I have some BP. Um, but I don't really have any particular interest in being long oil directly. Usually when I play that, it's like I'm playing like reversals or something in the oil market. Otherwise, I generally stay away from CL. The volatility is too high risk. It's just gambling a lot of the time. I can give you insight of the CVS Care segment. It's what I work in. Their demise was their lack of strength in contract negotiations and RCM processes to collect billing efficiently. That's a probably good point. Go with the companies. Yeah, well, yeah, longer term exposure too, and you can collect yield off of the covered calls. What do you know about XRP? What about it? Like Ripple? I mean, I owned some for a while. They promise to be the only crypto that's capable of beating Visa's payment processing. I don't know if they can or not. Probably, they would probably become more centralized in the attempt. I think the big question is whether funds are willing to adopt it at the same rate that they adopt Solana. And so far that hasn't been the case. Although their tech is probably more decentralized and slightly better. It's been a long time since I've looked into it. I was buying some when it was being when they were going through their SEC investigation, but then I sold it on like the crypto bull run, so I don't have any exposure now. Yeah, but we're no longer in the same economy we were back when B of A was going to use them as a payment processor. Anyway, I think that's about it for this week. So we can I'll pick this up in Pickles Picks tonight, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend. Thanks, guys. Watch out for toxins. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what the fuck that's about, but they said that there was something that came up on the blood test that they wanted to do like a toxology report on. And so they were gonna do another test today and see what it was. Maybe I got like food poisoning or something. Anyway, we'll find out. I do eat out enough that food poisoning shouldn't be as rare as it is, so I wouldn't be surprised. Do a cleansing, gross. Anyway, I'll see you guys later or tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Later.